Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Israel assassinates Palestinian resistance leader in Gaza. Anti-Abdullah protests erupt across Jordan over gas prices. And series of deadly bombings hit Iraq ahead of the holy month of Muharram. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
Israel assassinated Ahmad al-Jaabari, the head of the Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of the Hamas movement, in an airstrike on the Gaza Strip. The following report looks at the most prominent chapters in the life of the leader of al-Qassam brigades, Ahmad al-Jaabari.
Ahmad Saeed Khalil al-Jaabari was the deputy commander of al-Qassam brigades and its actual commander on the ground. Those close to him called him Abu Muhammad, and the Israeli occupation nicknamed him the Hamas movement's chief of staff. He is one of the most prominent figures wanted by Israel, which accuses him of being responsible for a large number of operations against it. Ahmad al-Jaabari was born in 1960 and received his bachelor's degree from the Islamic University of Gaza. He started his life as a guerrilla in the Fatah movement. He was arrested by Israeli occupation forces in the early 1980s, accusing him of involvement with military groups that planned commando operations. He spent 13 years in Israeli prisons. While in
prison, al-Jaabari ended his relationship with the Fatah movement and joined the Hamas movement, working at its political bureau. Following his release, al-Jaabari focused on administering a Hamas organization that works on issues concerning prisoners and former detainees. Later, his relationship with the al-Qassam brigades grew, leading the Palestinian Authority's preventive security force to arrest him and detain him for 2 years, after accusing him of being the connection between the military wing and the Hamas leadership. For 6 years, al-Jaabari was responsible for guarding Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in Gaza, succeeding in misleading Israel and preventing it from finding the soldier. Al-Jaabari was subjected to several assassination attempts by Israel. The most notable took place in 2004, when he was lightly injured. During that raid, his son, brother, and 3 other family members were killed. However, the latest assassination attempt with a missile that targeted his car led to his martyrdom, terminating the life of one of the most prominent figures of the armed resistance in Gaza.
Joining us from Gaza is Jamil Mizhir, a leader at the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Mr. Mizhir, how is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine looking at these developments?
To start with, we present our condolences to ourselves and to the Palestinian people for the martyrdom of the commander of the Qassam brigades, Martyr Ahmad al-Jaabari. We say that the blood of the martyrs will increase our people's determination to continue the resistance in the path of struggle and the path of martyrdom to achieve our goals and to liberate Palestine and achieve the Palestinian people's national goals. It is clear that the Israeli occupation was deceptive. It announced a halt to the operations and agreed to the truce, then committed a serious crime against the Palestinian people. It is continuing to kill innocent people and Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli occupation is clearly acting like an arrogant thug while the international community watches. It disregards international treaties and charters and continues to kill innocent Palestinian civilians. For this reason, we say that this operation and serious crime and the ongoing aggression only increase the Palestinian people's determination and will increase their courage, spirit and resistance to face this aggression.
Open with this breaking news that the head of the Hamas military wing, Ahmad al-Jaabari, was killed a short time ago when Israeli aircraft fired a rocket at his car in the Gaza Strip. The IDF stressed that this is an ongoing operation. IDF Chief of Staff is overseeing the operation. Jaabari is not the only target. The purpose is to stop the constant barrage of rockets on the south of Israel. Residents living in southern Israel, close to the Gaza border, are urged to remain vigilant throughout the evening hours. The Hamas government announced that Jaabari was killed and a second operative was wounded, and Jaabari's son was also killed in the attack. The incident came hours after a terrorist rocket barrage on southern Israel. Jaabari oversaw the firing of Qassam rockets into Israel. He also oversaw the imprisonment of IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. Israel failed in earlier attempts on Jaabari's life. The brief uneasy calm in the south was shattered earlier this afternoon as 4 rockets landed in the Eshkol Regional Council. No injuries or damage reported in that attack. The Army is examining the possibility that the latest barrage consisted of Katyusha-type rockets fired from the Egyptian Sinai. Earlier, it appeared that an Egyptian-mediated truce was being adhered to by Israel and the terrorists in Gaza. After 5 days of fighting, both Israel and Hamas sent signals by way of Cairo that they would hold their fire unless attacked. The rhetoric, however, is continuing on both sides. Speaking last night to a meeting of regional town heads in Beersheba, Prime Minister Netanyahu warned that the fighting is not over, and he promised that the terrorists will have a heavy price to pay. The Prime Minister went on to say that he will choose the right time to exact the highest possible price. Earlier, Prime Minister Netanyahu met with the Security Cabinet, which decided to halt the Army fire into Gaza as long as the rocket fire stops. The Cabinet also agreed that if the rocket fire is renewed, Israel would increase the severity of its response. The Iron Dome system was bolstered today in the south of the country to guard against missile attacks from the Gaza Strip. Dennis Zinn has that story.
An Iron Dome missile defense battery was redeployed in the Negev town of Netivot this morning. This just 2 days after Grad rockets plowed into a neighborhood of the town and the factory, causing much damage. 30 people were treated for shock. Residents said that they feel much safer now, knowing that the air defense unit is there to protect them, and requested that it not be removed again once this round of hostilities subsides. Over the last 4 days, 6 rockets bound for population centers in the south of the country were intercepted and destroyed by the system, possibly saving many lives and much property. In light of these successes, the producers of the Iron Dome, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, invited correspondents to take an up-close look at the unique weapon, which has attracted much interest around the world.
Iron Dome is not meant to enable the state of Israel to stand back and say, bring on the rockets. Iron Dome is meant to give Israel and Israeli leaders time. It's meant to intercept the first volley, the first days, the first weeks of volleys of rockets, but that will give us time to choose where we plan and how we plan to stop it, either via political means or via military means.
The Iron Dome is the first and only operational system in the world for countering short-range rockets. Members of the weapons development team were chosen to receive the 2012 Israel Defense Award. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Reactions are coming in to the Israeli attacks on the besieged Gaza Strip. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has defended the attacks, saying it will stand by Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Egypt has strongly condemned the Israeli assaults and has called on Tel Aviv to immediately stop the attacks. The Muslim Brotherhood and Egypt's health minister are calling on President Mohamed Morsi to reconsider all treaties as well as ties with Israel. The acting chief of the Palestinian Authority has also condemned the attacks. Mahmoud Abbas has called for an emergency meeting of the Arab League to discuss the Israeli aggressions. Damascus has strongly condemned the meeting of foreign-backed Syrian opposition groups in Qatar as a declaration of war against the country. Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal al-Muqdad says the unity deal signed by the opponents of President Bashar al-Assad rejects any dialogue with Damascus. Muqdad also slammed France for recognizing the opposition as the legitimate representative of the Syrian people. He accused Paris of reviving its, quote, colonialist past. French President François Hollande has said that Paris is considering giving weapons to the Syrian opposition after the recognition.
More than 60 people were killed today by the gunfire of al-Assad's brigades. Most were killed in Damascus and its countryside during the ongoing military escalation and the use of different kinds of heavy weaponry in most cities and towns. At the same time, fierce clashes on multiple fronts took place between al-Assad's army and the Free Army.
Clashes made headlines in the past few hours as they occurred on multiple fronts. Fierce battles took place between the two armies, the Syrian and the Free, in the south of the capital, Damascus, and the Tadamon and al-Hajar Raswad neighborhoods. The battles were accompanied by the shelling of the southern neighborhoods of Damascus. In the countryside of Damascus, especially in the city of Harasta, violent shelling of residential houses continued. The shelling reached areas in the eastern Ghouta. In Aleppo, that has been witnessing daily battles for nearly 4 months, the Free Army was able to take control of the Kindi hospital and of a regime checkpoint after attacking it. In al-Hasaka province, warplanes carried out several air raids, specifically on the city of Ras al-Ain, which the Free Army seized days ago. In Idlib, violent clashes between the two armies, the Syrian and the Free, took place particularly at the southern entrance of the city of Ma'rat al-Naman. Clashes also took place near Wadi al-Daif camp, which has been under siege for a month. In al-Quneitra province, sporadic clashes took place between regime forces and the Free Army on the outskirts of Ruwaina village that is located outside the demilitarized zone. In addition, al-Assad's army indiscriminately shelled al-Rastan city and Homs. It also rained down a large number of shells on the provinces of Dir Zur and Hama. The Taqiyya Dara and al-Hasaka were targets for al-Assad's army, as tanks and warplanes shelled civilian residences, causing deaths and injuries.
The Jordanian government decided to increase fuel prices between 16 and 32% under the pretext of countering the growing budget deficit. The government also adopted a mechanism to alleviate the impact of the price hikes on low and medium income Jordanians. Salwa Sawaka reports from Amman.
Jordanians woke up this morning to the news of rising fuel prices. The government decided to lift fuel subsidies at fluctuating rates in an attempt to close the budget deficit. Jordanian citizens described the price increases as huge and unjustifiable, especially considering that salaries remain unchanged.
Even before these price hikes, the people were suffering. The unemployment rate is very high. The decision to raise prices is inappropriate.
It's very expensive. Some fuel prices were doubled. It's unacceptable.
The price of cooking gas jumped to nearly $14 per cylinder. The price of low-grade gasoline rose to nearly $22 a cylinder. In addition, the prices of diesel and kerosene increased to nearly $20 per cylinder. Observers believe that the government resorted to increasing the prices because the budget could no longer carry the burden of subsidizing basic goods. They are calling for the implementation of a fair mechanism to compensate low and medium-income families.
First, the amount of financial support doesn't exceed 20 pastres a day, which doesn't meet the cost of the cheapest gas cylinder. Second, the economic implications of the decision to increase the prices of basic economic goods, such as energy and others, will lead to a wave of inflation.
According to the government's compensatory mechanism, the amount of financial aid provided to each member of a family of 6 or less is $100 per year, provided that the total amount of money received by a single family doesn't exceed $600 a year. This mechanism applies to families with an annual income that is inferior to $1,400. Subsidies to some of the most important consumer products were lifted, triggering price hikes. However, according to economists, the dinar did not plummet because of the Jordanians that may have been exempt from the subsidy mechanism that was approved by the government. Salwa Al-Sawaka, Dubai TV, Amman. In Jordan, protests were held in different parts of the country to condemn the increase in the price of oil products, and clashes erupted between protesters and security forces in different areas.
On Tuesday night, thousands of Jordanians protested in different parts of the kingdom to condemn the government's disproportionate hike in the price of some oil products, which varied between 10 and 53%. After announcing the price hike, the capital Amman and Irbid, Al-Ramtha, Al-Mafraq, Al-Karak, and Man witnessed demonstrations in which thousands participated to protest the decision. Some of them closed off roads with burning tires, and others attacked security centers. Protesters called for the downfall of the government and the resignation of Prime Minister Abdullah Ansur as they carried signs that read, "Revolution of the Hungry," and "In whose interests are the price hikes?"
I really hope that they retreat from this decision and return things to the way they were. That would be better for us. You see what the situation is like, and we are worried about what's coming.
I suggest that I close my shop for 6 months because of these rent prices. I do not even make money to cover my rent. What's next? It means the state does not care about us, and the government does not care. The people are hungry, and no one cares. Am I right, or what?
Jordanian sources clarified that major security reinforcements were taken in the area of Gamal Abdel Nasser Square, or what is known as Al-Dakhliya Square, where the sit-in is taking place. Jordanian Darak forces, or riot police, prevented protesters from reaching the Prime Minister's house and confronted them with tear gas. The Jordanian Public Security Directorate announced that 4 members of the police were injured by the protesters' gunfire in the governorate of Irbid. A court and gas station were burned, and clashes also took place in Al-Karak governorate between civilians and Jordanian police. The scope of the demonstrations extended to other governorates. A local source at Al-Karak governorate said protesters burned the court building in the city, and others tried to storm the Consumers Institution inside the building.
In Iraq, a series of bombings rocked the capital, Baghdad, and 3 other cities. The attacks mainly targeted the oil-rich city of Kirkuk, as 4 car bombings exploded consecutively, mainly killing civilians. These attacks coincide with others in the city of Al-Hila, the capital of Babel Governorate, and Baquba, the capital of Diyala Province. More details in the following report.
These are the screams of a mother who lost her son in a new series of attacks that rocked the Iraqi capital Baghdad and 3 other cities. There are over 10 victims, and today's attack is not different than previous ones. Booby-trapped cars and explosive devices were planted on the streets of Iraq. 4 car bombings exploded simultaneously in the city of Kirkuk, 250 kilometers north of the capital Baghdad, in an attack that claimed the most casualties. The attacks began with the explosion of a booby-trapped car near the Kurdistan Democratic Party office, which is headed by Masoud Barzani, the president of the Iraqi Kurdistan region. Minutes later, another explosion took place after security personnel and bystanders had gathered. The insurgents had adopted these tactics during their previous attacks. Another booby-trapped car targeted a military patrol in the city of Hawija in western Kirkuk, causing casualties. Kirkuk, that is home to a mix of Arabs, Kurds, and Turkmen, is witnessing a struggle over the control of the governorate. Another attack took place in Diyala, where a booby-trapped car was left on the main road of Baldroz district in eastern Baquba, the capital of Diyala governorate. In addition, an explosive device was detonated in the neighborhood of Tahrir in central Baquba. This attack left several people injured. In the city of Hilla, the capital of Babel Governorate, police and medical sources said civilians were killed in a car bombing. A local official in Hilla added that the car exploded near a high school for girls and a crowded market, leading to the killing of a number of schoolgirls. As for the capital, Baghdad, it woke up to the explosion of another car bomb that targeted an official at the Interior Ministry, which led to the death and injury of a number of civilians and policemen. These latest attacks come on the eve of the Islamic New Year and the month of Muharram on the lunar calendar that is significant for Shiite Muslims. No one has claimed responsibility for the attacks. However, al-Qaeda has previously targeted Iraqis on these religious occasions to reignite the sectarian conflict that reached its peak between 2006 and 2007.
The Ansar al-Din group, which rules the northern part of Mali with other groups, said it no longer aims to impose Sharia or Islamic law across Mali. However, it still wants to impose it in Kida, one of its strongholds in the area.
These are scenes of people's lives in the northern part of Mali. Poor children are unable to find a field to play ball in, except for the mosque's courtyard, from which the cry, "God is great," emanates. This is another scene during which this cry is also heard since Islamist extremists seized power. In the backdrop of this shrine's demolition, this person says they vow not to leave a single idol intact in the whole world. This is a third scene, a hospital where urgent cases are transferred. Among its guests is this patient whose hand and foot were cut off in a dispute. It was an execution of the gunman's view of Islamic law. Amid all these scenes, life is proceeding in a normal manner, as normal as Ansar al-Din, al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, and the movement of oneness and jihad in West Africa, who sees power in the area, allow it.
الاتحاد الأفريقي صادق الثلاثاء على خطة التدخل العسكري في
On Tuesday, the African Union approved a plan for military intervention in Mali to assist its government in regaining control of the entire country. The economic bloc of West African states, known as ECOWAS, approved sending an international military force to Mali. It will consist of 3,300 soldiers, most of whom are from Nigeria, Niger and Burkina Faso. All that remains is for the African Union to present the plan to the United Nations Security Council for its approval.
The
international envoy to Al-Sahel and former Italian Prime Minister Romano Prodi is hoping to take advantage of that time to create suitable conditions for negotiations. He said the target is to protect the cohesiveness of the country and the government.
The first step
The first step, clearly, is to work on unifying the government in Mali. The second goal is a shared goal to protect and guarantee the unity of the country that is currently divided.
Suitable conditions need time, and Europe, according to French President François Hollande, will only provide training and logistical support. The results of the negotiations or talks about a military intervention are unresolved. In the meantime, the citizens may become accustomed to this scene of people getting pelted with stones.
A high-ranking Russian delegation is in Tehran for talks with senior Iranian officials. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov is meeting with the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Dr. Saeed Jalili. The aim of the meeting is to discuss future talks between Iran and the P5+1 group and the ongoing crisis in Syria. Amir Hossein Eskandar has more.
Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov has visited with the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Saeed Jalili, and his Deputy Secretary al-Jaabari in Tehran. The main objective of the meeting is to discuss Iran's next meeting with the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, which consist of China, Russia, France, the US, the UK, plus Germany, known as the P5+1, and how to resolve the ongoing crisis in Syria.
Would welcome an earliest possible resumption of talks. Earliest meaning, of course, whatever you put into the meaning of this word. But for us, the delay which took place after the most recent round that actually was organized in Moscow in June is already too long a delay. We think that we will have something preferably before the end of the year if everyone agrees.
Regarding unilateral sanctions brought on by Western countries against Iran, Mr. Ryakov said,
"We do not believe in sanctions of unilateral character. We do think that any sanctions, if applied, should be approved beforehand by the Security Council as the sole body that is responsible for international peace and security, maintenance of international peace and security."
Tehran has repeatedly voiced its readiness for negotiations based on mutual respect, while maintaining that it will not give up its inalienable rights under any circumstances.
Is, as we hear it, that they would facilitate progress at negotiations. We don't think this is the case. We think only that these sanctions work towards deterioration of social and economic situation in Iran, which is very wrong. We cannot ever accept this.
Iran argues that as a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty and a member of International Atomic Energy Agency, it is entitled to develop and acquire nuclear energy technology for peaceful purposes.
Of recognition of the Iranian rights to enrich is one of the issues at the talks. We need to progress on it.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Wincoat Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows, and more at linktv.org/mosaic. Airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories, world news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.